Have you ever wondered why some older folks stop visiting others as they age? Today, I want to share my story at 80 years old and the 6 reasons why I've decided to hang up my visiting shoes. When I was younger, I enjoyed going here, there, and everywhere, meeting friends, catching up with family, and even chatting with neighbors for a quick hello. But these days, my favorite spot is right at home, curled up in my favorite chair. It's not because I don't care about people anymore, I do, but as time passes, the joy of visiting others has changed. There's always a new experience when you step outside. Some moments are funny, some embarrassing, and others just exhausting. Today, I'll share 6 of these stories with you to explain why I prefer the comfort of home. Grab a cup of tea, settle in, and join me on this journey. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more stories like this. Reason 1. The Too Many Stairs Saga. I remember the day I visited my old friend Martha, who had just moved into a stunning 3-story house. From the outside, it looked like something out of a magazine, pristine, with polished windows and a beautiful garden. Martha was beaming with pride and eager to show me around. "I'd love a tour," I said, not wanting to disappoint her. She grinned and led me straight to the staircase. First, I didn't think much of it. I had climbed stairs all my life, after all. But after the first flight, I could feel myself slowing down. "Just a quick pause," I told myself as I caught my breath. But Martha kept climbing, her steps light as a feather. "You okay back there?" she asked cheerfully. "Oh, just fine," I lied with a smile. We reached the 2nd floor, and I felt like I had just run a marathon. By the time we made it to the 3rd floor, I was practically glued to the couch, she pointed out, trying not to look as winded as I felt. Meanwhile, Martha continued chatting excitedly about the view from the top. It was at that moment that I decided, no more multi-story houses for me. After that visit, whenever someone invited me to their house with more than one level, I politely declined. I learned that no amount of charm or beautiful decor could make me want to face another set of endless stairs. Getting older has taught me that my body has its own opinions about what it's willing to do. What used to feel like a quick stroll up a staircase now feels like a trek up Mount Everest. And you know what? That's okay. I've come to appreciate simple, single-level spaces where I can walk without losing my breath. Life is full of enough uphill battles. I'll leave the literal ones to those who enjoy the climb. Reason 2. The tea that wasn't tea incident. One chilly afternoon, I decided to stop by my neighbor Linda's house for what I thought would be a pleasant chat over tea. Linda has a heart of gold, but tends to put her own unique spin on things. She led me into her cozy living room and promised to bring out some warm tea. "You're going to love this," she said, disappearing into the kitchen. I was looking forward to a comforting cup of Earl Grey with a splash of milk. But when she returned, she handed me a mug filled with a strange syrupy liquid. I took one sip and immediately knew something was wrong. My taste buds recoiled. "Linda, this doesn't taste like tea," I said as kindly as I could. She laughed. "Oh, it's prune juice. It's healthy, you'll love it." Let me tell you, I had no idea prune juice could be both bitter and overly sweet at the same time. It was like a cocktail of confusion and regret. I tried my best to smile through it, but my thoughts were racing. Why didn't I just stay home and make my own tea? The experience taught me more than just a lesson about beverages. It was a reminder that everyone has their quirks, and sometimes those quirks can turn a simple visit into a challenge. I adore Linda, but after that day, I decided I'd stick to brewing my tea just the way I like it, without surprises. Sometimes the little things like a flight of stairs or an unexpected drink can change the way you see visiting. I realized that staying home meant I could control my environment and avoid these exhausting mishaps. Reason 3. The gossip session that changed everything. When I was younger, a little bit of gossip was part of the fun. Sitting down with friends, swapping stories, and laughing over life's little dramas felt harmless. But as I grew older, something shifted. I began to notice how these conversations could take a dark turn. One particular visit stands out in my memory. I had gone to see an old friend, Donna, who greeted me with a warm hug and a fresh pot of coffee. We settled into her living room, and at first, the chat was lively and pleasant. We reminisced about old memories, shared updates about our families, and laughed about how much things had changed. But soon, the conversation drifted toward the lives of mutual acquaintances. Donna began dissecting their choices, mistakes, and personal struggles. At first, I nodded along, thinking it was just harmless chatter. But as the minutes dragged on, I felt my energy drain. The conversation grew heavy, filled with negativity and judgment. I stared down at my coffee cup, wishing I could escape. It wasn't that I didn't care about the people we were discussing, I did. But I realized I didn't want to spend my precious time focusing on other people's troubles. By the end of the visit, I was exhausted, not from the physical act of being there, but from the emotional weight of it all. As I walked home, I decided, no more gossip-filled visits for me. Time is too precious, and I want to fill mine with conversations that uplift and inspire rather than drain and depress. Now I focus on meaningful discussions that bring joy and connection. Reason 4. The never-ending sleepover invitation. Sometimes, a simple visit can unexpectedly turn into an extended stay. One afternoon, I went to catch up with my friend Carol for what was supposed to be a quick coffee date. We hadn't seen each other in years, so the excitement was mutual. When I arrived, Carol welcomed me with open arms. Her house was cozy and inviting, and before I knew it, we were deep in conversation. We shared old stories, laughed until our sides hurt, and enjoyed some delicious homemade cookies. I was having such a wonderful time that I barely noticed how the hours passed. At some point, I glanced at the clock and realized it was nearly 8 p.m. I stood up and mentioned that I should probably head home. Carol's face fell. "Oh, but it's so late now. Why don't you stay the night?" she insisted. I hesitated. I didn't want to seem ungrateful or rude, so I agreed. Carol handed me a set of fresh pajamas, and before I knew it, I was settling into her guest bed. What I thought would be a one-night sleepover turned into a full weekend visit. The next morning, Carol made a big breakfast and suggested we spend the day catching up even more. I didn't have the heart to say no, but by the time I finally returned home, I felt completely wiped out. I longed for the quiet comfort of my own space and my beloved bedtime routine. That visit taught me an important lesson about setting boundaries. While I still love visiting friends, I now make it clear how long I can stay. There's nothing wrong with enjoying someone's company, but I've learned that it's okay to prioritize my need for rest and recharge. My home is my haven, and I've come to cherish returning to it at the end of each day. Reason 5. The small talk dilemma. Another reason I've slowed down my visits is that I often feel out of touch with modern conversations. When I was younger, I was up to date on the latest shows, music, and trends. But these days, the world moves at a pace that I sometimes struggle to keep up with. I remember visiting my niece Emily not long ago. She's in her early 30s and full of energy. As soon as I arrived, she started telling me all about the latest viral trends on social media, mentioning apps and influencers I'd never heard of. She talked about dance challenges, virtual hangouts, and new tech gadgets. I smiled and tried to follow along, but I felt like I had stepped into a foreign world. Emily handed me her phone to show me a video. I couldn't even figure out how to unlock the screen. She laughed, not unkindly, but I could tell she thought it was amusing how out of touch I was. In that moment, I realized I no longer needed to keep up with every new fad or gadget. My interests had shifted. I no longer craved the latest buzz or trends. Instead, I found joy in simpler pleasures, reading a good book, enjoying a peaceful afternoon, or tending to my garden. When I visit someone, I want to talk about things that matter to me: family, memories, and meaningful life experiences. Modern small talk often leaves me feeling disconnected, but I've learned that it's okay. I don't need to know the latest viral dance to have a meaningful conversation. Instead, I focus on timeless topics that foster genuine connection. Reason 6. The home is heaven realization. There was a day not long ago that helped me truly understand why home feels like paradise. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon, and I had made plans to visit an old friend. I had been looking forward to it all week, but as the day unfolded, something unexpected happened. I found myself standing in my living room, soaking in the peace of my surroundings, the soft hum of the kettle boiling, the golden sunlight streaming through the windows, and my favorite chair sitting invitingly in the corner. I paused and thought, why am I rushing to leave when this feels like heaven? The world outside suddenly felt far away. The simple joy of a peaceful afternoon in my own space felt priceless. I called my friend to reschedule and spent the rest of the day savoring the quiet moments. I brewed my favorite tea, curled up with a book, and spent some time tending to my garden. The birds chirped cheerfully, fluttering between the branches, and I felt completely at ease. That day, I learned something important. Home isn't just where you live, it's where your soul feels at peace. While visiting others can be wonderful, there's something uniquely comforting about knowing you can relax in your own space, free from distractions and demands. Now, when I'm invited somewhere, I think twice. Not because I don't value connection, but because I've learned to value my time and peace even more. Sometimes the best company you can have is your own. Why I chose to hang up my visiting shoes. Looking back, each story carries its own lesson. The stairs at Martha's house reminded me to listen to my body and honor its limits. Linda's surprising choice of prune juice taught me the value of familiar comforts. The exhausting gossip session at Donna's house showed me that not all conversations are worth my energy. The extended sleepover at Carol's reminded me to set boundaries, and my chat with Emily proved that meaningful connections don't require keeping up with every trend. And finally, that quiet Saturday afternoon reinforced something I had been feeling for a long time. Home is where I am happiest. It's not about being antisocial or avoiding the world. I still love my family and friends deeply. But at 80, I've learned that life is too short to spend time in ways that leave me drained. Instead, I choose what fills my heart with joy and brings me peace. So, if you ever feel torn between going out and staying in, remember that it's okay to choose your own comfort. It doesn't make you any less caring or social. It just means you found something precious in your own space. Thank you for taking the time to join me on this journey through my reflections. Sharing these stories has been a way for me to connect with all of you and remind us that life's true treasures often lie in the simplest moments. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories about home, peace, and the things that bring you joy. Let's keep this conversation going and inspire each other to embrace the life that makes us happiest. Until next time, take care and remember you deserve a life filled with the peace and joy that come from being true to yourself.